Well, if you feel like a little garage wisdom, humour and logic, this is it. If it's in the news, on your mind, close to your heart, getting up your nose or on your chest, welcome to the show. Anyone who's flown over the Murray knows that it is sick. As I said, we have cirrhosis of the river, and that's more serious than glib. And nobody really seems to have the answer. No, that's wrong. Lots of people seem to have the answer, but we in the Court of Public Opinion don't know really who to believe. And they argue amongst themselves, and nobody does anything about the river. It just gets worse and worse. Now, don't glaze over, because we're going to try and shed some light on this, some meaningful light. Ray Najar is the General Manager of the Murray-Darling Association. Welcome. In whose interests do you work?
Jeremy, we were organised by a group of very industrious local government people in New South Wales and Victoria in 1944. And their bailiwick at that time was to make sure that the stalled Snowy Mountain scheme was rejigged, and they worked with Sir William Hudson until 1953 to have the scheme refinanced, and away it went. And since then, the organisation has grown from about 13 councils to 103, 104 councils.
Okay, so you've got some clout.
So we represent local government and communities from Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia.
Well, from where I sit, I see, and I'll never get it out of my mind, all those farmers throwing the plan, God knows what that cost, on a bonfire and burning it. So sure got the minister's attention.
It certainly did.
But you have the irrigators, their interests. You have people who use the river for recreational purposes. You've got the environmentalists, and then you've got New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia, all with seemingly reasonable arguments, all competing with each other. Now, why, with something as important as this river, can't we just get together and fix it?
Look, and that's exactly what our organisation sets out to achieve. We're an advocacy group. We pull together a lot of the facts and figures that have developed over the history of this nation. The basin in particular has been my life's work, fortunately by starting as a young trainee engineer at Chowilla in 1964-5, and then moving on to converting channels to pipelines in Renmark and so forth. And the issues are quite clear to most basin communities that the health of the river is very important.
Yeah. Well, the crunch question, Julia Gillard comes to town and says, I have the definitive answer, 3,200 billion litres of new water will fix the problem and make everybody happy. Is she right?
The argument that 3,200 billion litres will fix the river is purely an arbitrary number that appeases the public, because they don't know what the management systems of the river are based on seasons of high flow and seasons of low flow. So the number is really a means of trying to capture imagination, I believe. It's not really the way we should be going about it. We have really been striving for a proper management process and a proper sharing process of that water.
But who should run the river?
The river needs to be run by an independent authority, there's no question about that. And the independent authority needs to understand the needs of all the sections of the river that require sustainability. But the argument used by the conservationists of Australia tend to be coming out of the coastal cities and the urban areas of Australia, telling country people how they should live their lives and how they should manage the river. Yeah. And really this is an affront to intelligence, the intelligence of the people that know the system and understand that if they don't manage the river properly, they're out of a job, and they're out of food security and out of food and fibre production.
Yeah, well, all the competing interests, everyone wants to win. I've got a funny feeling that it's all a matter of compromise, that somewhere along the line we're going to have what is going to be best for the most, but most importantly, best for the river.
Correct. I mean, the number, the 3,200 gigalitres, or if they like to call it billions of litres, which is really a bit of a stretch.
But how would they know? Who's sitting there measuring them?
Well, exactly. But the actual end result, if people are patient, will be better than that anyway. And that's already been proven by the report put out by the Murray-Darling Basin Authority.
What do you mean if we just left it alone, it would be producing that much extra water at the mouth?
No, what I mean is that the infrastructure works that we've been asking for the last 8 years that need to prevent evaporation and seepage losses and better controls, we will head towards, over a period of the next 7 to 8 to 10 years, we'll be heading to a figure higher than 3,200 anyway.
Okay, now let's say we make you the commissar of the river and no more discussions. You just, in a dictatorial way, do what is best for all the competing industries. What would you do?
What I would do would be invest in the same way that South Australia has been able to invest since the late 60s, early 70s, when we've upgraded systems, as I might add, has been done in parts of New South Wales and
By
Victoria.
systems, you mean irrigation channels and things like that?
Converting channel systems to pipelines where possible, as much as possible. The major trunk services in New South Wales and Victoria, like the Yarrawonga Channel and the Moala Canal, cannot be piped. They are rivers in their own right.
Okay.
They're man-made rivers, but all the appendices to those systems can be piped and have meters put on them so that the farm gate, the water delivered to the farm gate is measured, everything is measured from the source, and the farmers have investment on farm to upgrade their infrastructure the same as we have here in South Australia.
Minister Burke has made a statement this morning. Could you paraphrase that and tell me whether you agree?
Certainly. I mean, Minister Burke has currently come out with the view that we can achieve the numbers that we're wanting to get to in the next, and he's saying up to 2024.
That's river flow volume.
This is the volume of water that would be recovered from infrastructure upgrades.
Yep.
Because we have antiquated systems that were built back in the First World War and Second World War, and even prior. The Chaffey Brothers systems were built even prior to that in the Sunraysia. So the investment that we can put into those systems alone will generate close to 1,000 gigalitres if we measure the time that we have and the investment we need to put through those programs over the next, as the Minister has pointed out, up to 2024. It can't be done quickly. It's taken South Australia over 30 years to reach the stage where we're at. We started in the early 70s and we didn't finish until 2006. So, you know, it's a bit unreasonable to expect the eastern states to suddenly, with a magic wand, wave it and suddenly say, yes, we can do all the same thing in 10 years.
Let's be unreasonable.
It's not going to be happen. It's not going to happen.
It mightn't happen, but it'll
the other aspect
put them
of
on
that,
notice.
The other aspect of that, of course, is that federal government seems to think that when it talks about $1.7 billion over 10 years, it's doing a marvellous thing for the community. We have an economy in this country of over $1 trillion. I think it's about 1.2 or $1.3 trillion. And yet we somehow seem to justify spending less than 1% of that GDP on water infrastructure to upgrade what was created by government in the first place.
And what is the greatest and most important river in our country? Ray, thank you very much.
And what is the element? The essential element is water.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Ray Najar, who's the General Manager of the Murray-Darling Association. And remember, let me say it once again, no Murray, and we came pretty close to that, no Murray, no Adelaide. You've got to think about that and put it in that kind of perspective. And look, if you want to make a comment and you've got some sort of particular or personal interest in this particular vital subject, I'll give you the email and the website at the end of the show, and we'd love to get your feedback here in the Court of Public Opinion.
And if that crystal ball I gaze and says I'll always be your steady fellow.
It's a home theatre.
It's an office.
It's a salon.
It's a bar.
It's a garage.
Garage Mahal can transform your shed, carport, garage or undercroft into your favourite room in the house. You'll be surprised with what we can do with that disorganised and messy space. Regardless of your reasons, your lifestyle or hobby, we can create whatever you can imagine. So call Garage Mahal today on 1300 839 353.
Is trust important to you? When building life's biggest investment, well, look no further than Rossdale Homes, a South Australian family-owned company whose mantra is "because trust is a must," has been building quality homes for people like you and me for over 30 years. Rossdale Homes guarantees an absolute fixed price. No hidden extra charges. Choose off the plan or work with their building consultants to design your own. Or visit their website, Rossdale Homes, because trust is a must.
Singing abracadabra in a cat's eye.
The Court of Public Opinion, where the issues are the entertainment. And thank you for all of the people who got in touch with us on Facebook or sent us an email or on the webpage. We'll give you the addresses at the end and you can put in your 2 cents worth. We'd love to get the feedback because that's what this program is all about, the Court of Public Opinion, and that's you. Let me introduce you to the jury. We have the beautiful Julia O'Neill. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And some interesting issues for you all, I might say. Caroline Peacock.
Hello.
And Coralie Cheney.
Hi, Jeremy.
Thank you all for coming. Now, Matt went out onto the streets of Adelaide and asked some interesting questions. The first one was a sort of a bugbear of mine, and that's the airport, the curfew at the airport. Here we've got this huge investment in an ultra-modern airport, and we have a restriction on its ability to trade and to look after the city. This is what you had to say.
I'm at Rundle Moor on a beautiful day here in Adelaide to find out what you, the public, think about airport curfew.
I think the airport should have a curfew, but with regards to fines, I think there will be circumstances where airlines can't avoid being late, and there should be allowances for that.
I think that at any time of the day you can order just about anything. You can go online and look at anything. I don't understand why a flight coming in late, why there should be curfews for that, if it's easier and more convenient for the flights to arrive at that time for people travelling, especially internationally.
No, I think there should be fine. There should be no late not arriving, because where I live, all the flights are coming and going. And it's very disturbing. There's time for everything.
So noise pollution is the biggest problem for you?
Exactly. Very much so. Okay. Because we get it from every angle.
And I might tell you, just before we go to the jury, on Facebook, this is from Luke Lomby, or Lomb, perhaps. Airport curfew. No, 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 no. We are already backward enough in this state, as it is. Any obstacle for international travellers is not good. If you live near the airport, sorry. Even the rich folks in North Adelaide have dealt with it, double glazing and earplugs and such like. Julian Rutt says, definitely need curfews, given the airport is right in the middle of the metropolitan area. Julia, what do you think?
I think we should put a stop to the curfew. And as long as we've got the traffic, which we can create more flights coming into Adelaide, if we do stop the curfew, I think that we should go that way, because we are lagging behind, and I think that it's just turning our state into a very boring place.
Yeah, well, I don't think Melbourne, Caroline, Melbourne doesn't have a curfew on the airport, does it?
I don't believe so. I think there is one at Essendon Airport, which is closer to the CBD, but Tullamarine's so far away, it doesn't really affect the suburban area.
Well, what do you say? Should we have a curfew or not?
Well, it doesn't really worry me, and I normally catch the 6 o'clock flight, and that means getting up before 4:30 so you can make it. Don't think I'd actually want to get up any earlier than that.
Yeah. Coralie?
I think if you live near a train, railway tracks, you expect trains. If you live in a flight path, expect planes. In South Australia, do we really have enough population to warrant planes coming in at odd hours that are it's that inconvenient? So, no, I don't think we should have a curfew.
Yeah, but the planes, when they had the curfew, the planes were a lot noisier. Now, they are very, very quiet. We are on a flight path here in Glen Osmond.
Exactly.
And I don't notice them. I think it's not a bad sound. You get used to it.
Oh, I think it's my snooze button.
It's just like living on a main road with trucks and
it's
cars.
Life in a city.
It is.
But I don't think people should be, or airlines should be penalised if they, through connections and delays, that they have to land late.
Yes, I agree with that.
Because that's obviously a one-off event at the time.
Now, the
and
other...
they shouldn't be therefore sent on to Melbourne or Sydney, whatever.
Yeah. Well, the other issue Matt talked to the people of our city about was penalty rates. And this is what you had to say.
I believe they should be paid penalty rates. It does have a great impact on family life and social life, and you should be rewarded in some way for working those hours.
Yes, I'd agree that certainly for casual employees, when they are having to work overtime, that there should be a penalty rate for casual employees.
Yeah, I do. I do think that penalty rates are a reward for time that's taken away from family, or time that is usually rest time, and so I think that workers should be rewarded.
I don't think they should be having to pay for it, because there's always people that are willing to work different hours, and there might be students, for example, that will prefer to work on weekends.
Penalty rates, I mean, it's fascinating. It's like holiday pay. I am worth more when I'm on holidays than I am when I'm on the job. I mean, there are a lot of anomalies. Coralie, you first this time. What do you think?
Well, I work at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre, as you know, Jeremy, and we obviously will do a lot of functions there, a lot of hospitality, and therefore we employ over 600 casual staff. A lot of those people are students, people that work full-time during the day and get that extra shift at night. So it's a really valuable job for them, and that is night work. We have an EBA, which basically gives them a flat rate no matter what time of the day or night they're working, weekends, public holidays, etc. So I think it would penalise a lot of hospitality industries, in particular, if they got penalty rates, and businesses that require people to work on weekends or at nights, like nurses, for example. It should be allowed within that pay category.
Caroline?
Well, I think we all know now times are hard, and small business in particular. Trying to run a small business, you have to offset your opening hours with penalty rates, and it may force some businesses not to trade or even not to exist anymore.
Or not to employ.
Exactly.
Julia?
I agree. I agree with the girls. It puts too much pressure on small businesses, and I just think that there should be like a 20% increase for, say, high-risk positions like police officers, and like nurses, doctors, an increase for them. But for general people, after hours, I think that if they go beyond the 7.5 hours of work, then a penalty rate. But apart from that, I really don't think that it's warranted for just normal small businesses, and there's plenty of jobs out there. For young children, young people that want to work. And
Well, hospitality and tourism would get a huge boost if you just did away with penalty rates. But in radio, for example, if you're doing midnight to dawn, which you'd imagine you get a penalty rate, you get far less money for doing midnight to dawn than you do if you do the breakfast program. So they simply say, well, look, if you don't want to work all hours of the day and night, don't get into this business.
That's right, exactly. Same with the hospitality industry.
Yeah. And on Facebook, this is what you've said to us. Penalty rates, do we need them? Jealousy on Hindley Street. Jealousy on Hindley Street. Jealousy on Hindley Street says absolutely, only if you want to kill small business or double the price of an after-hours coffee. Dave Perturkin, he says penalty rates can be useful to attract people to work those shifts that need to be filled. Thank you for that. Now, Matt went out with his usual delicacy to ask the people of Adelaide what they thought of this new thing which appeared this week called female Viagra.
And finally, the use of female Viagra. Should females be using it?
My opinion, I honestly don't know much about it, but if it works for them and they want to use it, then it's their choice.
I wouldn't have any objection if they want to use it. That's fine with them.
I think that if it's health and safety is all okay to take Viagra, then why not? Women should have as much fun as men. Yeah, that's what I think.
I don't really know much about it, but yeah, whatever floats your boat, go for it.
I'm afraid I'm not the one to answer that. I don't think I would like it. And I don't know, it's up to the individuals. I've never heard of it before, so don't know.
Female Viagra. Now, do you want to know what they said on Facebook first or later?
Go on, give it to her.
All right. Matt says, if a woman needs Viagra, the man is simply not doing a good enough job.
Good point.
Andrew Schultz says, I would definitely use female Viagra. Andrew Schultz. Matt, why did you ask Andrew? Dave Humphrey says, if there is something in that area that will assist, then go for it. The one I like, which Amber didn't want to put in the program, was from Carl. Female Viagra, yes, 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 yes! I have no idea what he's getting at. Julia, what do you think?
What about the good old 50 Shades of Grey book that's out right now?
Yes.
That's doing it for a lot of women. I'm not sure about the tablet. I mean, everything is going back to medicine, isn't it? We need a pill to go to sleep. We need a pill to wake up.
Apparently it's something you put up your nose, which is even more odd.
Well, but it could be anything. It could be water with a little bit of eucalyptus and you know, because it's a mind over matter thing, I believe. It could be totally just a waste of money. And what's wrong with a good wine, a bit of ambience, good man next to your side, and put on a movie or get your toys out.
Yeah. We could do a whole segment on that, I'm sure. And some nice music to you know, some bomba da bomba dang 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 ba ding a dong ding, something.
Something a little bit, you know.
That does it for you every time.
You want violins?
Not the bang, bang, bang.
Oh, right. Caroline.
I don't understand scientifically or medically, but it seems to me very strange that you'd stick testosterone up a female nose to act as Viagra.
Never thought
might
of
grow
that.
hair out of it.
We don't know what the side effects are yet. And everybody now, as Julia said, is relying on a pill. You've got a pill for weight loss, you've got a pill for migraines, you've got a pill for hay fever, you've got a... do they know how these all interact?
Good point.
Probably not. Coralie.
Gee, I suppose the male, the blue Viagra, works on increasing blood flow, from my understanding, to various parts of the body. Body.
Well, the direction's right.
Which, of course, increases that urge. The female Viagra, or the pink one, is working on a hormone. Now, most women are on the pill or hormone replacement or something like that anyway, and how does this all react? I don't know, does testosterone, you know, want you, or end up making you want to go and mow the lawns as opposed to going to the bedroom? Or a little bit of TLC, I think, is going to work a lot more than HRT.
And if you got mixed up between mowing the lawn and going to the bedroom, I mean, it could be a terrible moment, a crisis moment.
Could be a disaster.
But isn't male Viagra to de-stress the person, as you said, blood flow? But a female has to be de-stressed before they get into that situation.
It's all too complicated.
It's
too complicated for a mere male. A mere male. But just on the subject, I always thought Viagra would have been a great name for a motor car. You know, the Viagra, the Mitsubishi Viagra. I could see that tearing out of the shops, and there are 1,000 other lines that one could use in the advertising pitch that I will not bore you with now. Special guest Leon Byner coming up on the Court of Public Opinion. Thank you, jury, so much.
When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever.
Is trust important to you when building life's biggest investment? Well, look no further than Rossdale Homes, a South Australian family-owned company whose mantra is, because trust is a must, has been building quality homes for people like you and me for over 30 years. Rossdale Homes guarantees an absolute fixed price. No hidden extra charges. Choose off the plan or work with their building consultants to design your own. Or visit their website, Rossdale Homes, because trust is a must.
When we kiss that fever with that flame.
My next guest, and I've known him for years, a great radio talent, Leon Byner. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
I remember the first time I heard you back in Sydney. I don't remember the year. It was on 2UW after John Laws had had a heart attack.
Yes, 1974.
And you had all these crazy voices and comedy and a very creative kind of radio that I don't think anyone had heard at the time.
No, and I must say, I was really glad that 2UW decided to replace someone like John Laws with someone like me, who in the Sydney market was an unknown quantity. And I'm pleased to say that for the nearly 3 months I was there, the ratings remained at number one.
Yeah.
And I think the reason for that was that I didn't try to do what John Laws does, because only he can do that. What I needed to do was what I do. And at that stage, of course, I'd come off Adelaide Radio.
Which station?
5KA.
Right.
As a person who was a music and comedy performer. I was never a stand-up comedian, I was always a broadcaster. But I'd done a degree of television as well. And I kind of added a whole lot of things into the program, and we did interviews with celebrities and we took calls about community issues. And at that stage, when you write comedy, as I had and still do, if you're going to do satire, you've got to have a good grasp as to what's actually going on. And of course, in 1974, all of these controversial things were going on with Gough Whitlam's government about loans affairs and buying back the country. So there was a lot of material to play with.
Yeah.
And of course, then Bill Snedden was the opposition leader, and I used to have this knack of getting them to say things they didn't really want to say. And by putting them on air, they'd look a bit silly. And then they blame me, and I said, well, you know, why blame me? You said it, I didn't.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty interesting time for me. But I realised then, back in 1974, that I should try and move into talk radio. I came to 5AD from Brisbane in 1991.
And doing a music show.
Yes, and you were one of the directors or owners of the station. And I worked there for a number of years, and we got some wonderful numbers. And then as things do, they evolve. And I left the station in about 1995. And I decided to say to myself, look, you really need to do talk. You know, don't bother about being a music presenter, because they're going to be a dime a dozen.
But you were doing talk in a sense.
Well, I was, but you see, when in a music format you're working in radio, you're not allowed to say much.
No, but I don't mean that. I mean when you used to ring Bob Francis as Ven.
Oh,
was
my
it
God.
Ven?
Ven, yes. Ven was...
you could never pick your voice.
No. It's funny. I used to do it as a joke for nearly 2 years. And it was a cross between Patrick McGowan and a headmaster I used to have at Wesley College from years ago. And it sort of was, yes, hello, my name is Ven. Yes, very concerned. And I would ring up Bob and give opinions on stuff. And I remember we had a senator who's now not in the politics business anymore, Rosemary Crowley, who, this is years ago, suggested that men need a map to go to a supermarket. And I remember ringing up Bob Francis and saying, Bob, do we really need people we elect to tell us how to go into a supermarket? I don't know that any voter, no matter who they voted for, actually wanted that of their members. Who are these people? Who do they think they are? What do they think they're doing? And of course there was a lot of reaction to that. And in fact, I was amazed to know this. Bob actually told me later, when he found out who I was, that there were people offering me legal work, believing that I was actually a lawyer, which I thought was funny because apart from compliance training, which is nowhere near a law degree, I didn't know much about the law. Mind you, over the years that's changed.
You get to be a bit of a bush lawyer, though, don't you?
Well, you do, but you don't give advice because that's very dangerous to do. But look, that was the thing where people said to me, I remember a colleague at 5AD at the time, John Dean, rang me and said, I know it's you, mate, you've got to do talk. Well, I'd already discovered that that's what I should do. So David Whiteman, who was then the manager of AA, said, look, we want to put you on Mid-Dawn and just see how you go. So I did a few of those, and they liked what I did. And so I ended up filling in for various people, and then I got the afternoon shift, and we managed to get it to about 13.5%, where previously it was 6, 7 or 8. And then Lee McCluskey and Tony Pilkington called it quits in mornings, and so they decided to put me in that shift. And that was about 2001. And at that point, when people started calling me about issues, the one thing that became clear to me was, Leon, you can't just sit here, passively hear what people are saying, and not be part of the process of change.
Yeah. Now, your program is deeply involved.
Oh, absolutely.
In many
I
of the
have to
issues.
tell you, I never anticipated that circumstance would require me to involve myself in the process of change other than being on air. Well, what's happened is, as a result of the way that we've been doing things for some time, you can ring the program and get almost anything to happen if you've got a good case. I often jest with my friends, I can help anybody but me. And it's often true because, you know, we get guys who have got contact and possession issues with regards to access to family law issues with children, people getting ripped off, power companies who've done the most despicable things to consumers. I love exposing that stuff because our community over time has been railroaded by big government and out of control corporatism. If you talk about government, that is the worst marriage you can have. It's a dreadful marriage because what it means is that ordinary people get caught between the cracks, and the cracks are very big, and they get done in.
Now, I know many people regard you as something like Saint Leon because you come to people's rescue and you've done a great deal to right wrongs and correct situations that never should have been in the first place, a burden upon society. So on behalf of all of your many devoted fans, thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to do this, but at least when I go to bed at night and I say goodnight to my pup, I can actually say to myself, I've actually justified myself today. I've done something.
What's the dog's name?
Coco.
Coco. Oh, yes, of course. I've heard you mention Coco. Now, what I want you to do, if you've got another 60 seconds, we have a rather impressive chair over here.
A chair?
A chair. And it's sort of a judge's chair, Chief Judge of the High Court of England's chair, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And I want to put you in that chair, and I want to give you 60 seconds on this program to change the world, change Australia, change Adelaide for the better.
Yeah.
A great moment to pass on selected wisdom.
Okay.
We'll do that in just a moment. My special guest, Leon Byner, who in this magnificent chair, in 60 seconds, is going to change our world or the world of our city. Leon?
There are two things I would do. I would end Australia's obsession with free trade and instead have fair trade. In other words, countries couldn't dump cheap or low quality goods on our shores, undercutting jobs and exports from our country, because that's really bad news. For example, importing potatoes with the zebra disease, which can devastate a whole industry, so we can sell shoelaces in Botswana. The other thing we have to do is stop this dumbing down of the education system where we have social outcomes. In other words, we want to get people across the line so they pass, where really what we need this time now is excellence. Excellence in education, excellence in skill equals prosperity, not just getting above the line. They are the two things I would do, which I think, if we did them smartly, it would help this country immeasurably.
It makes so much sense what you say. While we're talking about radio, last week we had a segment on freedom of speech, which was provoked by this great big kerfuffle in Sydney with Alan Jones and freedom of speech and everyone predicting his doom. Well, the radio ratings came out and he went up quite nicely, quite dramatically, which means, of course, that the people of Sydney, who sit in judgment on this programs on radio and television, they made a judgment on what he had said and how he had said it, and he obviously got some tick of approval. Now we've got to go, but thank you very much for watching. On behalf of our team, our sponsors, Rossdale Homes, Garage Mahal and Yulumba Wines, we'll see you next week, and believe in yourself. Goodbye for now, and drive carefully.
Keep a dream in your pocket. Keep a dream in your heart. Keep your dream forever.